and everyone puts Kino der Toten, Mob of the Dead, Barak as top 10, which is why I have decided to make a little twist. I will not include these 3 maps in the list, because you see, everyone knows that Barak is scary, everyone knows that Noct is unsettling, which is why I wanted to give the spotlight to some other maps that I personally think are scary, which I don't see often put on scariest maps list. I'm not saying that all of these maps are the scariest, because we all know Barak is probably the scariest map out there, but I don't want to include that. In fact, I won't include these maps simply because we all know they would be in the top 3s. So imagine this like a top 8 to top 3 list. Without further ado, let's just crawl into this. Now you might think, wait, how is Ascension scary? Well, see, there is more to scariness than just blatant horror. To me, jump scares and super scary stuff isn't something that scares me. What I find scary about Ascension is creepiness, sound effects, and the barriers. See, every barrier in Zombies tells a story. You can see what happened in each barrier based on how they look like inside. It's not much, but it gives me chills just thinking of what happened here, because our brain fills in the blankets, and most importantly of all, the ambiance. You don't really get to think or feel these things when you're actually playing the game, because you're too busy saving up your points for that sweet PhD or Mustang and Sally. But if you ever play Ascension and there is only one zombie left, try it out. Just slowly walk around, listen to the nothingness and the vague metallic sounds far in the distance. And the fact that everyone within a pretty huge radius around here are either zombies or dead. You are all alone, isolated. You have Dr. Gersh, but unless you're playing with 4 people, you just need to teleport the washing machine to him, and he'll be silent for the rest of the game. It's such a creepy atmosphere. This feels like a place that should be busy with scientists and soldiers doing research on 115, but it's just so empty and grey. Grey in a good way. And honestly, it's the whole load of nothingness that makes Ascension so creepy to me.
Power level critical. Major systems offline.
There's a couple of reasons why I find 5 scary, or at least unnerving. And I will go through all of them, but I want to explain it from the top down, because as you probably know, there are 3 floors on 5. First floor, which I find the most creepiest. The second floor, which isn't as scary as the first one, it's mostly just darkness. And the third floor, which is just straight up horror. So now that we have established that, let's start with the first one. The first floor gives me the feeling of falling asleep at your school and waking up after everyone has left. So you're all alone in the middle of the night in your own school. It gives you a uncanny feeling, because there are no damage done to the building. Everything is completely fine. The chairs are all in place, the lighting is normal. It's just emptiness again. And isolation. This could be like a backrooms level, honestly. The only noises you hear here are the zombies, the windows that shatter when the zombies are approaching you, the phones, which, fun fact, is connected to the Ascension group at the same time Ascension takes place. But these offices here gives off a social vibe. It feels like there should be people here 24/7, but it's just not. It's like the uncanny valley. which if you don't know is simply explained with human figures, where there's a valley of uncertainty of our perception. Here, let me give an example. This robot is looking pretty robotic, right? What about this one? Looks cool. Now, look at this though. This is uncanny. And just like how we find these uncanny or unsettling things, I find the first floor of 5 unsettling in the same way. But that's just the first floor though. So let's go deeper in this map. This one isn't so scary or not as horrible as the first one. The only thing this one has going for it is the darkness and the barriers. You might wonder, what do you mean the barriers? Well, as I mentioned on Ascension, if you take a look outside of the barriers in Zombies, they sorta tell a story in your own mind though. For example, this window makes you wonder what happened here. I mean, you see the bloodstains. Something really dark happened here. Someone died here. Someone took their final breath in this place. When you're waiting for the next round to start, you should take some time to just observe your surroundings. You kind of make these thoughts or ideas of what could have happened here, or this room, or this. What is on the other side of these barriers? Could there be any survivors running around the place unarmed? About to be the zombies' next meal? Just the idea of what's happening on the outside is hard to describe. Especially when you're playing, you're too busy to think. Also, as I mentioned, the darkness. My god, this room is so dark. Also, Juggernog, the most important perk, is in a terrifying spot. A deadbeat corner. Now that's terrifying. It's not until we go to the basement, or the third floor, we get to see the atrocities the scientists were doing here. Again, with the barriers, we see even more of it here. We also see the bloodstains all over. The flashing lights showing us there was once full alarm here when the zombies came. Now it's just a mark of what happened here. You see the bloodstains smeared in a way that tells a story. Like here, where the stains are dragged further and further away from the teleporter. Or here, where someone likely were pushed to the wall before they were likely eaten by zombies alive as they fell to the floor. It's really this that makes zombies so scary. You know there are zombies here, but you don't really know why or what actually happened here. It's this lack of context that really makes this scary. Remember how I said the first floor of 5 was scary? Because of the uncanny feel? Yeah, now imagine that on this one, Nuketown. I have fond memories of Nuketown, or more specifically multiplayer on Nuketown. I played a lot of Black Ops 1 multiplayer back in the day. So seeing it all destroyed with no Spetsnaz or Rolling Thunder covering the entire map, no 14-year-olds constantly screaming the N-word is mildly uncanny. But it's not just the uncanniness that does it for me. The sounds on this map. And again, it has the isolation feel that Ascension has. You are in the middle of the Nevada desert, and the only company you have are cockroaches and some mannequins here and there. Also a giant mushroom cloud above you. The really dark atmosphere really makes this map so much more scary. While the multiplayer version was colorful and loud, this one is dark, eerie and quiet. You know, besides the usual buzz horn, the clock. And of course, perks spawning in. It's also about how destroyed this map is. It's so ruined. There isn't even a single barrier on this map. it goes from this to this. It's completely the opposite. There really isn't much more to say about Nuketown, or at least not in terms of the horror aspect, which isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes less is more, and especially in the terms of horror. This map has everything. Isolation, limited sight, mystery, and vagueness. Isolation in the feeling of being all alone in the Tunguska River in Russia. Limited sight as not being able to see the entire map all the time. And vagueness. See, unlike all the other maps, you have George Romero constantly following you around the map. And since he's always walking slowly, unless you touch him, he's going full on legendary Super Saiyan God Kaioken Limit Breaker Berserker. But the fact that he walks so slow, by the time he does reach you, it often comes as a surprise. Oh, Jesus Christ. You can't see him through the fog, but you can't really see him when you're on the ship. It's really close quarters here. And while he always knows where you are, you might not even have any idea of where he is. The only hints you get where he is the lightning he is emitting, or his quotes and or laughs. All of this mixed with the cold, foggy atmosphere, with gusts and famous Call of the Dead sound playing in the background. The one you're hearing right now, in fact. All of these things mixed together makes Call of the Dead, in my opinion, one of the scariest maps zombies have ever seen. Also, fun fact, this song was also used for the Halloween event in Warzone. With that being said, let's go on to number 1. Now we have talked about the isolation on Ascension, the uncanny and backrooms-like rooms in 5, the destroyed, dark and eerie atmosphere of Nuketown, and the limited sight in close quarters, part of Call of the Dead. If we mix all of these things together, we would get number 1 on this list, which is Kino der Toten. Where do I even begin with this one? Let's talk about the sound effects. You don't really hear these when you are playing because they're hard to hear when all you can hear is this. When this is what you're doing, it's kinda see why Kino der Toten would be a super scary map. But let's just take a listen to the ambiance. These ambiance sounds are terrifying, but mixed in with the destroyed and ruined theater that strengthens the horror, it's also really dark and eerie, just like Nuketown. You also have these Nova crawlers screaming every now and then, where they crawl down the walls. Also worth mentioning, most of zombie maps take place during the night or evening, but Kino takes time during the day, which doesn't really make you feel more safe. Honestly, it makes it feel more uncanny, as I mentioned. Like it's day, shouldn't I be safe from this nightmare? It also doesn't help that zombies at this time is only where you, the player, is. As in terms of storyline, Samantha sent the zombies into the future after the events of Darius. Humanity at this point is fully going. You can even see the Berlin Wall when you're on the outside, showing us that the zombies haven't taken over yet. But there are no other humans here. We're isolated in this small theater. Remember when I told you that looking through the windows and your brain would just go crazy with ideas of what could have happened here? Yeah, well, that is brought back here as well. Just take a look at these barriers. Really makes you think. One of the most infamous barriers in this one is where you can hear someone knocking. Even today, no one knows who's knocking. Who's knocking? Why is someone knocking? Is there someone inside the box? This place is practically falling down, so how long has this poor soul been trapped here? Knocking forever to get anyone's attention in this forgotten room, in an empty wardrobe, in an empty theater, in an empty part of West Berlin. And it's all of this mixed together that makes Kino der Toten, in my opinion, one of the scariest maps in Call of Duty Zombies. Hey, this video took a long time to make. Script, editing, recording, and so on. So I would really appreciate it if you liked the video. I would really appreciate it.